Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tech Girl podcast. I'm your host, Gertrude. Today's episode is about leadership. It's about navigating uncertainty and staying grounded in your values while your career evolves. My guest is Stephen Burrell, a global leader with experience across technology, strategy, and transformation. In this conversation, Stephen shares what it really looks like to grow into leadership, make difficult career changes, and learn continuously in an industry that never stands still. We talk about adapting to change, managing pressure, and building trust across cultures. We also touch on why technical skills alone are never enough. It's about mindset shifts, integrity, and relationships that really shape long-term impact. What I'm also excited about this episode is that we talked about masculinity, a subject that I'm well interested in. This episode is for anyone who's navigating transition, stepping into bigger responsibility, or quietly asking themselves, what does success actually mean for me right now? Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the Tech Girl podcast. Today on the Diversity Dividend season, I have Stephen Burrell with me. I hope I've pronounced your last name well. Stephen is a consultant, ICF SEC leadership coach, DE&I advocate, and does a lot more other things. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Many thanks for the introduction. And Burrell, whatever you want to say, I answer to everything, you know.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's good to know. Well, your career has spanned lots of different industries, I would say. You were an elite athlete and then became a coach and then work in the D&I space. Could you just run me through your career and where you are today?
Well, I think that will take up the whole podcast, so I'll give you a short version by working backwards and saying I kicked off my working career in the fashion industry, and today I work predominantly around DEI, keynotes, implementation, coaching. I do a lot of leadership development coaching, specialising in emotional intelligence, as well as cultural understanding. And underneath all of that, I'm the vice president for something called the Brotherhood for Professionals of Colour, which is a community-based. I didn't mention before that I live in Copenhagen in Denmark. I've lived out here for 28 years, you know, so there's lots of, hence why I don't want to go into the history, because it's a long one. It's a long history, just even the Danish history is long. But yeah, so day to day, it's like I call it the three circles. Our friend, Miss Crenshaw, Dr. Crenshaw, she calls it intersectionality. I mean, so the whole thing of there's three different things that intersect, and one of them is DEI work, the other one is coaching, and the third one is the Brotherhood. So most of my days are spent with one, two, or three of those.
Awesome. I was intrigued by the Brotherhood of Professionals of Color.
Four professionals
of color.
It's easy to say BPOC. BPOC is much easier to remember.
BPOC, yes.
Yeah, BPOC is easy to remember. Yeah.
Absolutely. Were you one of the founders? Let's start there.
Well, it's a funny story because, I mean, I would say no, but I would say I've been the accelerator. Joseph Yamoa started it. He was the founder. Yeah. And Joseph and I actually met on the street, which is really a funny story because both of us are not public transport people. I usually cycle, Joseph usually drives, and for some reason that day it was raining and I didn't take my bike, because in those days, it's like we're going back 2.5 years ago, I didn't have rain clothes, which I have now, so I could cycle in the rain. And I don't know why, I never asked him the question why he was actually coming on the train, but we met on the way to... He used to work at Maersk and from Istanbul Station, and I was working in an office space on the Meliagade. So we were both walking down, and we met. The old thing about people of colour acknowledging each other on the street and then having a deeper conversation. And he told me what he was doing, and excuse me, and I explained to him that I had a network, a knowledge of the space, because I've lived in Denmark for a long time, and I didn't have that much knowledge of people of colour. But if I could help, I would like to help. And that's how it started. So he has founded it. I got involved very early and allowed us to accelerate because of the network that I have in Denmark.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good initiative, especially with the Nordics. Like the first time that we met, you had talked about it. And I met Joseph at Tech Barbecue last year.
Yes.
Why do you feel that it's important? I mean, I know, but why do you feel it's important to have such a network and community in Denmark or the Nordics in general?
Well, in general, I mean, of course, is that one, we're a minority in this part of the world, and also there is a lack of knowledge about people like us. I mean, the Nordics have had a history around slavery, like many people, many parts of Europe, but there's not an acknowledgement that people of colour can contribute just the same as anybody else. So, and we found that initially we were doing topics which were predominantly around our own struggles. I mean, so it was whether it was career, whether it was retention, talent retention, whether it was around health conditions, things which focused on high blood pressure, sickle cell, diabetes, things what people like us, you and I, prostate cancer, and we will continue on that path. But we are much more open to everybody. I mean, we've acknowledged that everybody has a colour, but the focus is around black and brown people, what the black and brown people suffer. And the majority of our members are black and brown, coming from whether it's India, West Africa, the US, not so many from the UK, but one or two, as you could probably hear. The Brazilians, some of our members are from Eastern Europe, some Eastern European members. So yeah, we've got a mixture, and we've also got women, and black, white, pink and blue women. I mean, they're all there, everyone's there. So we're a very inclusive community. But what the reason why it's necessary is because there is a gap in the space which says that the hierarchy or the indigenous people seem to do things for indigenous people, and people of colour tend to not want to go and interact with those sort of spaces. So we create our own space, and that's where the differentiation with myself, because before I met Joseph, to be honest, I didn't know that many black people in Denmark. I mean, that's to be honest. But subsequently, I've got a whole new network of people. So I've been what I call the bridge builder between the two, so between whether it's the corporations and our organisation, or between people of colour and people from the indigenous, the native Danes as they call themselves, who tend to be white, and we tend to be brown, black. All different shades of brown. So yes. And of course we call ourselves professionals of colour, and everything's a professional, whether you are a school teacher, whether you're a bus driver, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're an accountant.
You work in tech?
I do not work in tech, no. But
whether you work in tech as well.
Yeah, you work in tech, regardless. Yeah. We just say that if you're here and you have a skill, and that skill could be navigating the space, then you are welcome. So we don't discriminate, that's the thing. And I think that in comparison to many other organisations, that we tend to do things for everybody. We're always thinking, like, who's the audience and what can we do for them? So sometimes we're doing something for executives, other times doing things for job seekers or students, but we're just always continuously thinking. And other times, like next month, we're doing an event around prostate cancer, which is for everybody. You see that not quite there, but I'm newly shaved, my last one of this month. Next month, I'll have a moustache to celebrate, or maybe not celebrate, to acknowledge prostate cancer.
Yeah, that's really nice and very important to create the awareness. Something that I've always wondered, as someone that's from Africa, Zambia to be particular, moving to Europe, is the way that people of color are sort of the different challenges they go through. However, you being from the UK have experienced being a person of color from that context as well as the Nordics context. What would you say is the difference? Because from my perspective as an outsider, I feel like in the UK, they're more advanced, if I could put it that way. But from your perspective as an insider in both contexts, what would you say about that?
Well, I mean, what you've said there is correct. I mean, you coming from London means that there's many things that I see going on in Denmark when I listen to my friends from Africa, West or East Africa, even the South, and the whole thing around sending money back to the family, taking care of the communities, etc., etc., etc. That's where my parents were, you know. So I didn't grow up like that. I grew up with my parents doing those sort of things. So I kind of always say that Denmark, or definitely the Nordics, are 50 years behind in comparison. But because they're small, they can catch up much quicker. But the whole acknowledgement, when they talk about the whole rhetoric around what's going on and the way they feel about people of colour, is definitely from the 1970s. It's not something which is explicit in what's said, but the way we've been held back as internationals is definitely something which is reminiscent of something which happened a long time ago in the UK. So I grew up in what would say best way to describe it, with a close proximity to whiteness. So I call a spade what a spade is. So I don't have any sort of fear to be in spaces where I'm the only one in the room. So it's a different thing in comparison to yourself, who grew up around people who look like you. I didn't grow up around people who look like me. So it's like I've got a step forward, a few steps forward than many other people in the space in here, because they're not used to it. They kind of get intimidated by big companies, lots of people who look different to them, etc., etc. But whereas for me, it's just normal. I mean, it's just absolutely normal. And also I have to throw it out there that, you know, that I was married to a Dane and I've got 3 biracial children. So I've experienced it from inside and outside, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
From inside of a family to externally in talking about in Denmark, but from the UK, you know, I mean, it's from childhood, you say that. So I was born cross-cultural, that's the only way to describe it. So maybe my lens are completely different than your lens. I mean, because you grew up around people who look like you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess there's just also more people of color in the UK than we have in the Nordics.
I think someone told me the other day, though, it's only 4% of the UK is black. I mean, black meaning black or Asian, you know, black Asian. So it's like they always say, I think in the service they call it black Asian, or no, Afro-Caribbean or Afro-Asian. I don't know what it is, what the sign is, but only 4%. So it seems as though, because of course I assume that you're congregating in the big cities, and in the big cities it's very diverse with regards of people's ethnic backgrounds. But when you go out, just similar to when you come out of Copenhagen, you go to the smaller cities, that it's pockets. There's not a lot of people of colour outside of the big cities in the UK.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. And the UK has an interesting history, but since we're recording this in October, it's not many people that know of Black History Month in the UK. As someone that supports DEI, is this something that is liberating, or what are your thoughts around Black History Month in the UK?
Well, I think that Black History Month is not meant for people like me, if that makes sense. It's meant to
what do you mean?
People who don't know their history are going to be introduced to Black history. But somebody who's been studying Black history since he was 11 years old is is in his 50s now, has got maybe a different section about Black history. And as I say all the time, I'm Black every day, not just on 1 month. It's a little different, but to give you a little bit of context, is that it was started in '87, and I was already beyond teenager at that stage. You know, just revealing my age, but say I was already out of my teens in '87. So therefore, I'd seen the difference it's made for people who didn't know about Black history and our contribution. You know, there is a massive contribution of Black people to England. I mean, if you can go London in itself, if you want to go into the Romans and look at Roman history, the man who created London was a Black man. You know, so it's like it's that far back. And then you can look at the whole thing around music. You know, and you think that recently the the British Library did an exhibition talking about black music, 500 years of black music in England. So
Ooh, wow.
there's lots of things that, like, again, is that people who know history, people, anthropologists, know the truth. They know the contribution of people who are black. The people who don't and not being aware, because it's not something that people celebrate. It's something that they try and make you feel the way they try to make us feel when we were growing up, that we were new to the country and we were immigrants and blah blah blah, and all those sort of things. Which, when you knew your history, then you kind of realised that no, we've been here for a lot longer than slavery. A lot longer, way before.
Yeah, definitely. For people that are not aware, do you think it's something that should be globally celebrated?
Again, it's for me, it's I can say that I've got parents who came from Jamaica, so just to give you, again, that you need some context. And my parents were very much, they came on British passports, but they were always Jamaican.
Oh, okay.
So former colonies had British passports. So there's many people who are English, British, or whatever, don't realise that many of the people who came from the colonies had British passports. So it's like they were invited to come, because there was a shortage of people after the Second World War, and they came to help build the UK, and they did build the UK. They contributed massively. There's a lot of talk in the UK about the Windrush generation. Yeah, my parents came in the early '60s, so that they were. Of course, they didn't come in the ship; they came in the plane, which they always like to tell us about when they were there. But the other side of it is that it's the same. They had to fight to make it easier for us. And this is the thing in which I think that we don't have to fight in the same way in Denmark or Sweden or Norway or anywhere else in the Nordics, the way my parents and their generation had to fight, because they physically had to fight, where we don't physically have to fight. We can only fight by our mere presence. It's making people question, like, who is this person? Why are they there? I had lunch with a friend yesterday, a new friend, and I won't tell the name of the company, but I told her, and I can say this like bare face, is that when I go into a space in the building, she's going to be, I said, within the next 48 hours, you're going to have 2 or 3 people come up to you and say, who was the guy you had lunch with yesterday? And that's like, she smiled, and I said, look, I know, I mean, it's not my first time, I've been in this position many times before. She just smiled and said, okay, Stephen, I got you. I mean, that's the thing. So that's the thing. It's like, and I said to her, what story are you going to tell? That's the thing. Because what are you going to say? Who is Stephen? That's the thing. So this is the, you talk about Black History Month. For me, I go through this every day of the year. It's not just in October or in February.
Exactly.
Every day I have to think, who's in the room? Every room I enter, I'm questioning who's there. So you talk about DEI, and then I'm not disabled, but I'm always looking about, is there disabled access? How would I get out of here if there's a fire? What happens if somebody comes to me who is not as happy that I'm there in that space? How would I maneuver that? That's the thought process. I mean, I've been conditioned. That's, I suppose, the difference, I guess, between being brought up in Europe or being brought up in Africa. I mean, I guess Caribbean or around people who look like you. It's a different level of, if the word is, I don't know, the word is anxiety is the wrong word, but awareness, that's a better word, a different level of awareness. So I'm constantly looking, wherever I go, whatever I do, whether I'm on stage or I'm in the audience, I'm always looking, who else is here? Constantly.
Yeah. Wow. Both for the good and the bad, I would say.
Yeah. But so far, it's only for the good. It's never been. I mean, I've been touch wood. I've been okay. But at the end of the day, it doesn't stop me. This awareness, which if you're not from diaspora, you maybe don't think like that. It's not something you think about.
No.
So.
Yeah. You work a lot with D&I, and lately there's been a lot of backlash for people that do not understand D&I. Could you just break it down and what value it holds? Because I remember, I don't know if you recall this, when we met last year during the event at Microsoft, And I was very, like, I was co-leading an ERG and everything. And I was telling you, I cannot do this anymore. You said you have to keep on. You have to keep
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
But yes, just speak to that.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I mean, and I kind of forgot that conversation because, of course, is that part of what I do with regards of being an advocate is to encourage people like yourself who are, I wouldn't say you're the token, but sometimes you can be tokenized, and then you need support because, of course, it's that you are helping a lot of people by being in the position that you're in, but you don't really. It takes a lot of energy from you. But when it comes to DEI, I don't know. I mean, I did a talk last week, and one of the things I spoke about is that diversity is being invited to dinner. You know? Inclusion is being able to choose from the same menu as everybody else. So I think the backlash for me is, I mean, is to be honest, is that it's nothing new. You know, I say everybody who's invested in DEI before, I mean, which they properly invested, will continue to be invested in it. Because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do. It's not necessarily looking at you're coming from a racial angle, but the angle of race for me is just a tiny part of DEI. You think about gender, you're a woman, and you can think about disability, you can think about visible and invisible, you can think of neurodivergencies, neurodiverse challenges, which is massive at present. You know, where young people, 20% of young people in Denmark are identified as being neurodiverse. You know, so what's that going to mean for the future? And then you can go on to the whole thing around religion, you know, the whole thing around Islamophobia. And then we've had lots of things with regards of what's been going on with the whole thing with Ukraine and having lots of Ukrainians who kind of jumped above everybody when it came to being migrants, you know. All of a sudden they were not in detention centres. So there's lots of things around it. So for me, is when I'm in my DEI, is that I'm looking at lots of things, and I'm not looking to put anybody to shame, but I'm watching. I'm listening. Yeah. I'm not somebody who you could pull the wool over their eyes and say that because we are celebrating this or we are celebrating that, then everything's okay. And the people who say they don't see colour, I constantly ask them, what do they see? If you don't see colour, what are you seeing? Because I've never heard somebody off colour say they don't see colour. Yeah. So.
Definitely. And these are conversations that you always having with business leaders. And my sphere is always like the tech industry, because that's what I'm exposed to. When you have those conversations with leaders and maybe they are a little bit apprehensive about it, how does that conversation look like? And where do you end up?
Yeah, well, there's just two things. Is that what people say in public is completely different to what they say in private. That's the first, and that's everybody. So if I tend to create a safe space, and I don't judge anybody, whoever you are. So what you say to me is like, it's confidential, but just say that there are many things that, I mean, just a simple thing like a female leader might be very fascinated by your hair as a black woman's hair, but she doesn't want to say, can I touch your hair? And I will say to her, it's inappropriate to touch somebody's hair unless you're given permission. You know? But that thought, because it's like a childhood fantasy almost, says that when I was little, I used to have a doll with curly hair, and I never had curly hair, blah, blah, blah. When we're talking about something which is a little bit more serious, you can talk about when you're a leader, and we're talking about leading international teams, and some of your team members are coming from other parts of the world, and they're not used to being as free about speaking up as you are in this part of the world. So there could be a challenge like, okay, Stephen, I've got so-and-so in my team, and he never speaks up. He's really good at his work. It seems like he's not contributing. And then I'll explain, okay, have you thought about the hierarchy in the country he comes from, where he's not allowed to, because if the boss says do this, he just does what the boss says. Okay. Yeah. Then we can use the this is the most recent one, or maybe not recent, but it's we're talking about people from Friday's Bar. You know, here in this part of the world, do a lot of drinking. A lot of things revolve around alcohol. Yes. And there are a lot of people who don't go to these events who come from our part of the world, just say that people are black and brown because they don't drink alcohol. So again, like saying to leaders, have you thought about saying you can come and it's okay not to drink, you know? and you serve non-alcoholic drinks, etc., etc. It's all about what I call a sense of belonging. That's my thing. Constantly, I keep referring to it. I've never used the word D&I as being the flag. And for me, when everyone talks about George Floyd, I say that I'm old enough to remember Rodney King. You know, in '92 he got absolutely battered by the American police and the LA police, and that created lots of things, but it didn't create a movement like the George Floyd killing did, you know. But it was just as awful, just as atrocious. It was atrocious. So you know, it's things come and go. Things get different names, get different labels, but at the end of the day, is that the ability to see and behave in a correct manner is the basic human right. That's how you should be as a human. It's got, regardless of whether you want to frame it in DEI or you want to frame it around anything else, it's about how do you behave as a human.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like that inclusion bit because, like you said, oftentimes it's the diversity that we hear a lot about and it can be misunderstood, whereas the inclusion gets left out. How would you encourage or how do you encourage leaders to be more inclusive, and the people that come to you who are not in leadership positions, how do you encourage them as well to be agents of inclusion themselves?
Well, again, it's like yourself, like you mentioned earlier, is that when you are going for a tough time, it's a case of you need someone to speak to. And you can always reach out to me and say, Stephen, I'm having a tough time and I need to have some sessions. But so it's always about understanding it. I'll call it the reframe. It's that everyone's got belief systems. I mean, everybody is biased in one way or the other, and sometimes in many ways. How do you reframe? You know, why do you believe what you believe in? You know, this cultural upbringing says you believe it because of this. There's loads. I can give you hundreds of stories, but we come up to Thanksgiving, and one of the famous ones is that many years ago, someone told me about that their mother always cut off the neck from the duck. Okay, so why did you cut off the neck? Because grandma did it. Okay, why did grandma do it? Because great grandma did it. And then why did grandma do it? Because the oven wasn't big enough. You know, so it's just like there's certain things which happen because it's always happened. But sometimes if you work out a little deeper, like okay, does it still make sense? You know, and not everybody has that ability to check themselves, so that they need to have an accountability partner. You know, somebody who can ask them, is this really the way you think, or is it based on something else? Yeah? But again, like I said earlier, is that these conversations, when they're done in private, it's a completely different conversation. You know, when you're safe and you can speak your truth. Because I don't judge. I'm not there to judge. It's not me who's going to judge. No. And then how they take away what they've discovered within themselves, they can come back and say that, thank you, you were the catalyst, you were the spark, you were the thing that's made me change the way I think. And I've given opportunities to people that maybe I would have given them to a year or so before, because I would not have seen that they're like you, you know, they're okay, they're nice people, you know. And that's the thing. That's the role that we have to play, both you and I, and people like us who can and are invited into spaces that other people are not invited into. So we are. Exactly. When I was growing up, I always found it really, really hard to see myself as a role model. I mean, from very, very young. But my mother used to always say is that you've been given a gift, and it's going to be a burden. But at some stage, you'll realise that you have a responsibility to give it back, you know, to help others, because you can do things that others can't. And of course, every parent probably can say that. But my mother's words have come to pass. You know, manners, she used to say, will take you right through the world, and manners has taken me right through the world. Good manners, not bad manners.
Yeah, absolutely. What excites you the most about your work?
Oh, there's so many things. There's so many things. I couldn't say what excites me the most. I think that the whole thing around BIPOC is really, really exciting. I mean, in regards of the fact that we have a community which is growing. We have an awareness. I mean, you think we've got around 200 members, and we've had one person in the last 2.5 years to leave the country, you know? I mean, this may change because of the whole the whole rules around it. You have to have a job, and Novo Nordisk has fired a lot of people, so that might change. But so far, up until now, up until today's the 29th of October, 1 in 2.5 years, so our community people stayed. So everyone talks about talent retention. So having a community like we have has managed to keep people here, and that's one of our cornerstones of the organisation.
Yes.
That's really, really exciting. And also, I think to myself is that the whole thing around that we can actually have these conversations now. Because I've lived in Denmark for a long time, and it's only been the last 2 or 3 years where these conversations have been made possible for people to start speaking about. Yes. For before there was always there's no racism in Denmark. There's no like we've got. But the more things that they're starting to measure, they realise that that in Denmark, just in the fact of gender, if you compare Sweden, Norway, Iceland, Finland, Denmark is at the bottom of that list when it comes to gender equality. Gender pay gap, etc., etc. They're not as so. For me, that's really exciting to see where that's going to go. Because I think in a few years' time they'll acknowledge that maybe they need other people in the room.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the same people can. The famous Einstein what says that you can't change or solve problems with the same level of thinking that created them. So maybe diversity will mean that there's other people in the room who can just question. Okay, have you thought about it like this? Or have you thought about it like that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised that it's only been in like the last 2 years. I mean, I do know that Denmark is quite special when it comes to these conversations. Was there a particular shift, or like what changed?
Well, there was the Institute for, I think they're called the Institute for Human Rights, the Danish version, released a discrimination report, which basically showed that like nearly 70% of people of colour had been discriminated against, etc., 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 and started to talk about statistics about how many more applications that we had to do, people of colour. They were back in the day when you had to have a picture in order to get an interview, etc., etc., etc. So there was like that when that came out, and they used the word discrimination, but it was what we would consider racial discrimination, basically.
Yeah.
And when that came out, I think it's going to be it's 2 years ago. I want to say it's 2 years ago. It could have been November 23. That's what I'm going to guess it was when it came out. So I was actually there, and that was really highlighting because, to be honest, I didn't know that there was so much racism in Denmark because, again, I live in a different space. Because my kids say all the time, I don't really live in Denmark. I live in this intellectual bubble of people who are like-minded, even though they might have different skin tones, but they like the things that I like. So the psychographics are similar. Whether it's sport, whether it's music, whether it's intellect, if it's vinscapes, they call it knowledge, museums, blah blah blah. Theatre, opera, blah blah blah. It's like something different. It's a different bubble. It's not Mr. and Mrs. Average bubble, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
You're smiling a lot. I'm sorry. You want me on stage? I can hear it.
Yes, and it's because I know what you mean. You did mention it, so I know exactly what you're referring to. Well, you do support a lot of men, right? What are your thoughts around masculinity today, both in the workplace and personal settings?
Well, it's a good you said this because I had a meeting yesterday with a women's organisation, a big women's organisation in Denmark, and we had a little chat about it because I know that there's been people in Denmark. There's a guy called Sven Åge Madsen, who's an older man. He's in his 70s today, but he's been championing for many, many years in Denmark about where are the men in the gender debate. There's no men. It's like there's many statistics about how bad men are at many things with regards of patriarchy. But when we're talking about gender equality, there's no conversation about men. When you talk about masculinity, we're looking at people who look like you and I, then we are, I call it the P's. Provide, protect, procreate. That were the things that we were, quote unquote, there for in our communities historically. Going forward, it's now a different time.
Yeah.
And we have to. I mean, I know, like speaking to guys in our network about simple things like, my father never changed the nappy. never changed a diaper, a nappy we call it in English. But there's many guys in this part of the world who never think that it was their role to do that either. So again, it's like going back to what I'm saying is that it's I won't call it backwards, it's the wrong word, but saying it's like going back in time for me. But the rules around masculinity, there's a lot to be said about it. Just say that there's a lot of conversations to be had, because we at BPOC, we were probably one of the first. In fact, we were the first organisation to do anything around February of 2024. We did 25. Sorry, we did this year. We did a masculinity debate. A couple of months later, we had adolescence came out. And then everybody was jumping on the bandwagon. But we can see the problem. I mean, I'm lucky in regards that I sit around or sit with different men's groups where I'm the only person of colour. If that's the case, it's not about that. It's about where we can speak about vulnerability. We can talk. So I'm sitting with Danish men, and we do talk about vulnerable things. And they're private. It's no cameras. There's no filming. But we do talk about it. And I think that we have a similar thing within BPOC, where we talk about things which are a little deeper. Around the role of a man, and sometimes, I think it's a different conversation when women are present, but sometimes it's nice to hear their perspective as well in these conversations. So I think that it's not something which is so binary. You know, we have this. I'm a great believer in this, because I've seen it so many times. Is that masculine energy and feminine energy, and there's. Some will say some women have got a lot of masculine energy. Some will say a lot of men have got a lot of feminine energy. But if you've got a balance, then you won't feel threatened by a woman. If you're balanced, you won't feel threatened. You find, or for me, definitely the way I live my life and think about life, is I feel. I had a good relationship with my mum. I've had a good relationship with my kids, my daughters for sure, and my son. And I've got a decent relationship with my sisters. So I've always had strong women. I come from a line of strong women who are not. They don't take no mess. Who say that? Yeah. They tell you. They put you in place if necessary. And I guess it's the way I've been raised, and it's the way that I kind of thrive. But going back to your debate about masculinity, I think, or your question, there is a challenge. There is a challenge around where is the man and what role does the man play in here? Because women can say that lots of things about masculinity, but just a simple thing of like going on a date with a man, is he expected to pay?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, exactly. I'm Zambian, I'm African, so it's a whole different a whole different conversation.
But so is he expected to pay in your eyes?
Of course, especially the first date, he should.
Well, this is the thing. Well, this is my point. So this is the thing which is quite interesting. So if you want to have equality, then but you can't say that you got, because that's what's confusing many men. They don't know when they should be masculine and when they should be more open-minded and feminine. And many of them find it, and not to say that that anything's wrong with paying and not paying, but it's a case of this thing about understanding where are they, who are they, and if I was to put it across to men who don't come from Africa, that where they struggle with regards of, you're supposed to be the best friend, you're supposed to be the husband, you're supposed to be the lover, you're supposed to be the father, you're supposed to be this, but when can you be a man? When can you do man things? Because you're not allowed to. Because anytime, I'm not quoting, it's not me, but they want to go out and play golf or football, whatever, they're getting pushback from their partners. So there is a debate to be had, and if we get some funding in BPOC, we'll have that debate, because we've got some real surprises for you. If we could get some money for it, we've got some real surprises for you. We'll bring in some powerful names, which will have a proper debate.
I think that's a very good conversation to have, because it's confusing for everyone, to be honest, and especially on this part of the world as well, where I come from. Even though equality is a conversation, it's still a bit clear, But in the Nordics, or Sweden in general, where I have more experience, it's very blurred, and oftentimes than not, I guess it's the fear of what to say or do, because I don't know if they've just never been invited to the conversation, or they were invited, said something, it backfired, now they stay away. I don't really know what's going on there.
Are you speaking about men here?
Yes.
Okay, it's quite interesting conversation here because I mean, again, you know that I've got friends all over the world and friends in DEI space. So I found out recently, which I didn't know, the biggest percentage of single mothers in the world is USA. The second in the world per capita is Sweden.
Okay,
So if you think of that, you think to yourself that Sweden, because in the US they constantly say the reason there is so many problems with young men is because there's no father figure.
Yeah.
But you don't have that same conversation in Sweden. So it's like,
No.
and so these are the sort of things when I talk about DEI advocacy that I do, my knowledge is not coming from one source, it's coming from all over the world. And it's almost like looking at the sky and you've seen all these stars. You think to yourself, they're all connected. But lots of things people don't know. They don't know that Sweden is the second, I mean, per capita in the world. They've got
That's insane.
single mothers. So therefore, then you say to yourself is that if you've been raised by a female and then at the same time you become misogynistic, then what's happened? That's what I say. I question all the time. What role do women play in bringing up boys who are misogynistic? There must be a role that you play, you know? So, yeah, to be continued, I'm sure, you know. It's a deeper debate. It's a real deeper debate, and it's lots of nuances here which have not been touched by anybody. I mean, no one's touched them. I mean, but it's to be discussed.
Definitely. And also in the workplace, are these conversations that you also have, like just specifically to those two roles?
Well, off the record, yes. On the record, then no, because of course nobody wants to be seen as like a misogynistic or even as a female. Like when you're saying that you prefer to have male bosses, you know, because females are so da 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 da. I mean, it's like again on the record, off the record. There's a lot of things which are confusing, you know, really confusing because it's not everybody who wants to be, and I use the word in a loose way here, dominated, to be told what to do. There's different ways of being a leader. There's different ways of behaving. But it's not only men who are struggling with this new terminology which is out there. The confusing terminology is used that some females are really confused by it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I work in a male-dominated industry, and I see it all the time where the men do struggle. I mean, there's a lot of other issues that go on. But what I find particularly interesting is the struggle to speak up, which can be strange because most of the time they just feel like they have the fear of saying something wrong. What would you say to those men to, you know?
It's not what you say, it's the way that you say it. So it's the case of mansplaining doesn't help anybody.
No.
But if you speak with humility, you speak with kindness and care, then you can say anything. I mean, you can say anything. So it's not what you say; it's the way that you say it. It's not new.
Yeah.
It's an old way of thinking.
There's an added layer of nuance to that on the how you say it. You previously alluded to more people being neurodivergent, and that means the way that they communicate is a little bit different, right?
Yes.
Who in those conversations should be held accountable, or how can those conversations go? Because naturally, some people that are neurodivergent are not aware that their communication style can sound more hostile or too direct or inconsiderate, especially when said to someone that doesn't have that awareness, but they're within the same team dynamics, and then maybe you add culture on top of that. What do you say to those kinds of teams and people?
Well, I say that you need to have some coaching. You need to have Stephen. Call me. I mean, because I think there are a lot of people who are in the workplace now. We've got 4 generations in the workplace at present. You know, boomers, X, millennials, and Y, Generation Y. So there's going to be different ways, and there's a lot of people who have not been diagnosed who are neurodivergent. But you have to have these conversations. You have to have this understanding that diversity of teams is going to get you the best results, but it's also going to be diversity of communication. So there has to be somebody who comes from the outside normally, or a really, really good intuitive leader, maybe be able to see how he can or she can actually put these people together in the right way. Have these conversations, which says that to your colleague who is neurodivergent, maybe he's aware of it, maybe he's not aware of it, and pull him aside and say that, the way you say things is landing like this because I understand that you've got a challenge, but other people are feeling it's like this. Now, there's lots of things that you can do beforehand. If you call us in for a workshop, it's short, 3 hours, not so expensive. I'll give you a good, and we can solve that pretty quickly. Quickly.
But is it the responsibility of the colleague or the manager, someone in leadership?
Well, I think it's whoever receives, like if you're the recipient of this form of communication which you're struggling with, then it's up to you to call in somebody above and saying that this is not okay. Is it possible that we can have some training here? Because it's not always the managers or the leaders. They're very focused on results. They're not really focused on whether or not you are having a good time, or not all of them. Some of them are, some of them are not. The so-called emotional, softer side of leadership is not seen as a KPI. You say that. So, I mean, the KPIs tend to be numbers and top line, bottom line, and that's what they're focused on. But I'm a great believer in that if you treat people right and you get a good dynamic team, you're more likely to get a better top line, bottom line. And that I have lots of evidence around, but of course it's not national. It's just based on my own research.
Okay. No, thank you for saying that. I've heard you speak on this topic a number of times, and I'm always happy and more relieved at having these conversations, because it's not everyone that's open enough to talk about it and be open-minded to receiving the information. You do speak a lot on conversations of this nature, mostly very closed off. Where have you had this information shared more publicly for people to access it?
I mean, again, is that going back to my late mother and say that I'm just a messenger. I'm not. It's not me. I'm a messenger. I've got something to say, and I always leave you with something to take away. But each time you speak, there's other people. I can't control what you're going to take away, because I'm speaking from whether it's 15 minutes or 1 hour. You'll control what's going to be taken away. When I work on one-to-one, then that's a little bit different. When I work with teams, a little bit different. If I'm doing workshops, then it's a little bit different. That's something that can give you tangibles that you can take away. But yeah, I'm out there and available. If anyone needs me, you can find me. I'm sure you're going to share my link where they can get in touch if they need to book.
Absolutely.
So,
okay. Before I let you go,
please.
I know, I know, and I'm trying to bring the lot. I'm trying to bring out the lot, Stephen. You're holding back.
Well, I am. But the thing is that it's back to this. Again, it's always upbringing. I'm not used to boasting about what I do. I'm the humble cat. I know what I know, and that's one.
Okay, let's have a humble brag.
Yeah, well, what I want, I don't know how to do a humble brag. Just say that you can find me on my website or on the BPOP website. Give me a call and we can have a chat, basically, or send me an email and we can schedule a little a conversation. I mean, that's the best I can give you as a humble brag, basically.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair enough. And also you approach coaching from the athlete side as well into leadership. Is there a huge difference?
Very much, but let's look at this, isn't it? And just think about this, is that if you can imagine, I used to play football, soccer, as they call it in America, and you think there's 11 players, but in those days they had like 14 in the squad. So there wasn't 25 as they do today nowadays, 14. And you say to yourself, we're all different. So in order for you to be able to get the best out of us, we play in different positions and we're all fighting to be in the starting 11. So you have to have a level of understanding of who and how you motivate the individual. And the every single elite athlete in the world has a coach.
Yeah.
Think about it. And then, we've got all these people in leadership, hundreds of them, thousands of them, millions of them all around the world, and very few of them have a coach. Think about it. So who can evaluate their performance? Who's evaluating their performance? So having these surveys, assessments once a year, that's not evaluating performance. You've got to look at it almost on a weekly basis. Like, who are you? What's going on? How are you showing up this week? And especially when you take in what's going on at home, what's going on with your family? What's going on with your family, in our case, abroad? Like, my parents are Jamaican, and right now there's a hurricane in Jamaica, So if I was leading a team and I'm thinking about, wow, how are my family doing? I'm getting messages from WhatsApp constantly. How are the family doing? I'm checking in all the time. But how is anybody, like, if you're a leader out there, sorry, but have you asked your colleagues, do they know anybody who's going through the hurricane? When a hurricane gets to America, everybody knows about it. But when it's in the Caribbean, it's like, it kind of is a little bit silent. But apart from this year, where I've heard that the British government are sending out resources to the Jamaicans and the Cubans and the people from the islands, the Caribbean islands. So, but normally it comes every year. There's a hurricane. It's hurricane seasons,
Yeah.
But my point is that when things are going on in your life, it's not one-dimensional. There's many things that are going on, and it's important to look, and the best leaders that I've ever had and the best leaders that I've ever worked with are the ones who can see things from different perspectives.
Exactly. Yeah, because you can't completely separate your professional life from your personal life. Yeah.
And if you can, you're not being honest. It may lead to burnout.
True.
Yeah. The old thing about code shifting. You know the story. I tell many of my sisters who know about the same, come and talk to me, because if it's getting too much for you, come and talk. Come and book some sessions, because code shifting is not healthy. It's not healthy.
Not at all. Yeah. Well, I would like to talk more. I know you have a lot on your mind, a lot of knowledge to share, but let's have a quick round of whatever comes to your mind. You just say, let's call it a lightning round. Is there one behavior you would think of for men in leadership that they should unlearn?
Unlearn? Probably the one I'll say always is that many of them think they know it all, and they should go to, I don't know. I'll come back to you with that information. I don't know. Don't have to pretend you know everything just because you're in a leadership position. And I can't. I would like to answer quickly, but I can't, because I'm a great believer. I love music, and you've ever seen an orchestra play?
Yes.
The conductor. But this conductor, most of the time, can't play an instrument. But he can get everybody else to play at their best.
Yeah.
So these are the experts out there. You are really good at putting people together. That's what leadership is for me. Sorry, it wasn't a short answer.
That's fine. I like it. Is there a book that has changed the way you look at life in general? Life as we know it.
There's many. There's too many. There's Dr. Panima here. She's written quite a few of them.
I've had her on the podcast.
You have? Okay, yeah. And she's had that, Can I say that, most recent one. But I think that Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, that one, that really taught me that I shouldn't really, to be honest, I don't care what other people think about me, but that book really taught me not to care about what other people thought about me, because this is a guy who was in a concentration camp, and he could forgive people who were killing his family and killing his people, his brothers from his faith, but he wasn't going to give them that much power by hating them. So, Man's Search for Meaning, I guess, could be,
Awesome. And the last one, is there one word that you hope defines the next generation of leaders?
One word. That's a difficult one. What would be one word? I will say, hopefully, empathy.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think empathy, yeah. 'Cause I think that if empathy, for me, encapsulates many things, and one of the things it encapsulates is saying that I'm seeing things from your perspective. when you're empathic. So I think that if you did that a little bit more, if we did that a little bit more, then life would be a little easier for many people, including our friends in politics.
Yeah.
If they thought of things like, how is this going to hit home to certain members of their, empathy, that's the word.
That's a good one. And I couldn't agree more. Okay, what's next for you? And where can people find you? We will have your details, but once again.
Yeah, well, you got SB, StephenBurrell.com, or you can go SBB at bpoc.tk. Either way, my website has got all the information to get in touch with me, and you can actually book. I've got a booking system, so you can book 30 minutes discovery if you want to have a chat, free of charge, complimentary, just to have a talk to see if it's something for you. What's next? I think the 14th of November we have a prostate cancer event at DFDS. If this probably comes out afterwards, if not, I don't think I've got any speaking gigs. I've got a few workshops to do, but no speaking gigs. I don't think I've got any more speaking gigs this year. I think the next time is going to be early next year, February, March, April. I'll be out there unless somebody needs me to speak beforehand, and then they know where to find me. Give me a call.
Absolutely, yeah.
Super.
Well, thank you very much. Just before we go, now that you've mentioned speaking, were you at Diversify? Because that's a conference I can highly promote, talk about.
I wasn't there this year. Chisholm, she's one of my dear friends. She's a sister who's lovely, and I love her family, and they're lovely. I didn't go this year. There's two reasons. One is that I was talking on the Thursday for the British Chamber of Commerce. And on the Friday the event was, so I didn't go. And the other reason was I wasn't booked. If I was booked, then I would have turned up. Of course, I'd have turned up to speak. But she moved in a different direction this year, so I wasn't there this year. But it's just something I can say that it's a magical space, Oslo. What she created in 2024, I've not seen that anywhere in Europe in my time in Denmark. Nowhere. That was like London, proper London vibes, proper London diversity, Well done. Yeah, she's doing a great job up there, and people should support her. She should get funding. I don't understand why the Norwegian government are not funding her to do that. But anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it that you don't understand, or you can't speak about it?
Well, I don't know, because I think that it's like you can push things. Like you've heard about the ostrich. You can bury your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. But when your head gets up, it's still happening. So you can't. It's going on. It's going on around you. We're watching. We're seeing. We're observing. And it might not be her. Maybe Chisholm is doing what I'm doing. She's paving the way for the next generation. Who knows? Maybe it won't be her reaps the reward. Maybe it's somebody else. The next young gun who's going to come forward and do something in the space. Who's going to think that without her, this would never have happened. So you never know.
I agree. Yeah, she's doing amazing.
Amazing. Were you there? Were you there last week?
I wasn't. No. Yeah, okay. I had some family obligations.
Okay.
No yeah.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, yes, and thank you for being here.
It's been great to speak to you, and it's also good to speak off the cuff, just to be direct. So I hope that when you chop it up, it makes sense,
It will.
I hope so. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
You take good care of yourself. You're very, very welcome. And please remember that if you need, pick up the phone, send me an email. I've got you.
I'll just take the train across the bridge.
There you go. Exactly.
I know where to find you.
Perfect. You take good care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed that episode and will share it with someone who needs to hear Stephen's message. There's no hype, no shortcuts, just honesty about growth, uncertainty, and the discipline it takes to keep learning, especially when you are already experienced. Stephen reminds us that leadership is about not having all the answers. It's about listening, adapting, and it's also about making decisions when there's no perfect option. It's about staying true to your values even when the environment around you is changing. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who's navigating their own career crossroads. One thing that stayed consistent for me is that progress comes from reflection, courage, and consistency. I'm Gertrude, and this has been the Tech Girl Podcast. Until next time, let's keep growing, we keep questioning, and we keep leading with intention. Goodbye.